Alright guys, so today I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the little bit more in-depth stuff in Unreal. We're going to start by talking about the gameplay framework, and I want to kind of just break it down like this. So if you go into the world settings, you're going to see under game mode, and this is all really important stuff, that there's a bunch of different things here: game mode, override, default pawn class, Hud class, player controller, game state, player state, and spectator class. And each one will have a drop down with some different options. So let me kind of break down what each of those are. The game mode is going to be the rules for that particular level. So if maybe it's capture the flag game mode, or something like a battle royale, that's going to contain all the rules. It's also going to keep track of what are like the win conditions and that sort of thing. How many teams can there be, and that sort of thing. There's the pawn class, and that's going to represent what the default pawn is that the player can be, and the pawn is going to mean basically the character. You possess a pawn, which is meaning that you're going to take control of that pawn. A pawn is a type of actor, and an actor is any asset or thing that can go into your project. So a player pawn is a type of actor that you would possess. A HUD class is going to be what controls the heads-up display. So that would be like showing you your health while you're playing, or when you get hit, or that sort of thing. It's usually a two-dimensional plane that's going to sit in front of you. Yeah. Player controller class is going to be how you interact with your player. So this is going to take the keyboard commands, how you can, jump or shoot. It's going to tell the level how those interactions are going to occur. The player state class is going to control what is going on with the player as far as what inventory the player has, the health that the player currently has, that sort of thing, stamina. Game state class is going to look at what is currently happening in the game at that time, such as the score. Does one team have the objective at that time? So this is stuff that changes. Oh, please excuse the interruption.
With the last name I through M as in Mary, so please come to the front.
Okay, so
10th graders with the last name I.
whereas game mode was going to set the rules, game state class is going to show what's currently happening. This is going to be stuff that changes, whereas this is more like set in stone. And then you have the game instance class, and this is stuff that's going to stay consistent from level to level. So it's like the overall stuff that if, like, let's say your character has 3 lives and you move on to the next level, well, this will keep track of how many lives you did have. And I also want to say under game mode class, that's also going to store information that's going to be on the server. And I'm sorry, game state class is going to store information that's going to be on the server. So if the team scores, you're going to be able to see it as well as everyone else who's playing the game. Alright, with that said, a couple other things talking about Unreal, and again, you can see all those here. And if you want to explore the blueprints, you click on this magnifying glass and you can double click. So this is our default player pawn. And if you go into viewport, you can see what they look like. Then you can look at the heads-up display that's currently existing, and it's showing, I don't know exactly what this means. Yeah, I'm not going to try to figure that out. Looks like it's just a box, but I don't know. I don't remember seeing a heads-up display. Nope. Oh well. Okay, and then there's the player controller, which does not exist on this one. It's all done within the character blueprints. They just went ahead and stuck them in the where is the commands? Here they are. So they're just stuck here, so they don't have a player controller. It's just in the character blueprints, which is also something you can do. There's not really a game state in this one because it's just walking around. There's not really a player state, and there's not really a spectator option. So you don't necessarily have to have all these, but usually you would in a professional game. Couple other things. Let me just navigate here to the content folder. If you go into the config options here, this is going to have INI files, and these are going to like tell you like the input. And if you look at all this confusing stuff, this shows you the different inputs that are in the game. So for example, there might be one for, you know, clicking the mouse, or if you move the mouse around, this kind of shows how it would move around, like the different axes for a mouse and for different game pads. You could adjust these numbers if you wanted to, and it would cause it to move faster or slower. The inputs can also be found, and you wouldn't really mess with that. So normally you would go here to project settings, and you can go to your inputs and see, you know, which kind of controllers work with the game. If you wanted to add another input, you could do so. So right now to fire, you can either push gamepad right trigger or left mouse button. To jump, you can either do gamepad face button bottom or spacebar, depending on what kind of controller you're using. These INI files also would control like the default level that it's going to open to, the default game mode, etc. You also have saved and autosaves. Every, I think, 30 minutes the game will autosave, and if it crashes or you lose everything or it doesn't open, you should be able to go back and retrieve the information here. As I think I said before, don't move stuff around from here while the folder is running. In the content folder, you have all these subfolders. There's going to be a couple of different things here. There's a UMap file, which is a level, like what you see here. This would be a UMap file. But then there's also a bunch of U assets. So if I were to take a photo and bring it into the game, it will convert it to a U asset. So let's try that now. And if you want to follow along with me, that'd be awesome. Let's go ahead and create a new folder. And we're going to call this images. There it is. And you can see it now created it here as well. If you don't have this, by the way, just click this button. Now in the double click on the images folder, and we're going to right click, and we are going to import an image to our game. If you have not downloaded an image, go ahead and just do that right now. Just save a file. I'm going to go to my pictures, and I'm going to put this My Little Pony texture. So this is now an asset in our game. All the assets are stored down here, and I can use this asset to texture one of my walls. Right now, if I just throw this on there, it'll create a new material, because every thing you put in the game has to actually be a material of which textures go on. So the texture is the image, the material is the thing that holds the image, and then I could you know, whatever, I could play with this if I wanted to scale it so you could see the whole thing, but that's fine for now. So just so you see how that works. So try putting a texture on something and seeing what happens from a photo. Get some cool stuff. Other than that, if you wanted to send this to another level, another game, like someone else's project, like, hey, I really like your texture, could you send that to me? You can right click on stuff and you go to asset actions, and you can either export them or migrate them. And if you migrate them, it just wants you to open up the other level, the other game, and just say, okay, where do you want to put it? And it's a really efficient way to do it. Exporting it will also work, but it also allows you to change the format. So let's say that I wanted to take a mesh and bring it into Maya so I could edit it a little bit. Like let's say I like this lamp, but I want to change the way it looks. If I export it, I have the option of changing it to an FBX OBJ. So it would be an editable file, not just a file that Unreal can read, but a file that I could actually edit and manipulate in Unreal. So I could save that onto my desktop, and that's the wrong desktop, this desktop. And then again, if I were to go into Maya, I'm not going to take the time, but I could then edit this static mesh and make changes to it, and then bring it right back in the game. I think that pretty much covers everything. Just let me take a second to check. Yeah, I think that's good for now. Oh, no, there's one more thing, sorry. So if I want to see where this actor is being used, this asset is being used, I can right click and I go to reference viewer. And this will tell me where it is being used currently in the game. So I can see that here it's in this folder. It's got a material on it. It's got a static mesh. And it's got its own blueprint. So I can say, oh, I want to see that blueprint. And if I double click here, it'll tell me where that blueprint's being used. Oh, it's in your starter map. It's in your minimal default, which means it's on this level. So I could then be like, okay, so I know it's on my level. I could search for it here, wall sconce, and there it is. And I could go into it and edit it. And that's pretty useful when you want to find, something that is, especially when you're looking at other people's blueprints and you don't really understand them. This will kind of show you how it's being used. So again, that's right click and then you go to reference viewer to see that. Okay, I think that's it for now. If there's anything else, I'll just tell you in class. Have a good day.